Today, we are diving deep into a really powerful section of the book of Ezekiel, specifically chapters 31 through 35. And this is where things get so interesting, because we're about to see this huge shift from these epic prophecies of judgment against the world's superpowers to this incredibly personal promise of a divine shepherd who will care for his people. All right, let's get into it.
So here's our roadmap. First, we'll look at how a massive empire gets compared to an arrogant tree that's about to be chopped down. Then we get a funeral song for a sea monster. After that, we'll see Ezekiel get his urgent job as a watchman renewed. From there, it's a powerful takedown of corrupt leadership. And we'll wrap it all up with a final judgment against a nation filled with hate.
We kick things off with a message aimed straight at Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. But what's so clever here is that God doesn't just talk about Egypt. Instead, he uses the recent spectacular fall of another superpower, Assyria, as this powerful, unavoidable object lesson.
This one question right here, it just hangs over this entire chapter. It's a direct shot at Pharaoh's pride, at Egypt's feeling of being totally invincible. God is basically saying, hey, you think you're so great? Let me tell you a story about someone else who thought they were great, and let's see how that worked out for them.
So, this incredible allegory unfolds. Assyria is painted as this magnificent cedar tree, just towering beautiful, its branches sheltering whole nations. The text says that no other tree, no other kingdom could even compare to it. It was literally the envy of the world. Now, this isn't just pretty poetry. It's a mirror. It's being held right up to Pharaoh's face to show him his own towering pride. It's a warning about that dangerous illusion that great power lasts forever.
And here's the punchline, the crucial lesson. The cedar's own greatness was its downfall. The text says its heart was lifted up in his height. And because of that arrogance, God handed Assyria right over to its enemies. It was chopped down, its branches scattered everywhere, and then it was dragged down to the pit, the place of the dead. The warning to Egypt couldn't be clearer. Your pride is putting you on the exact same path to a devastating fall.
Okay, let's jump to the next chapter, because this whole thing builds. The judgment against Egypt keeps going, but the tone, it shifts to something even more chilling. This chapter is written like a lamentation. Basically, it's a funeral song, a dirge, that's being sung before the person has even died. It's for a power that is about to be completely wiped out.
These metaphors are just so striking. See, Pharaoh thinks of himself as this majestic young lion, the king of the jungle, the top dog among nations. But God says, yeah, but you're also like a chaotic sea monster, a giant crocodile thrashing around in the rivers, muddying up the water, and just causing trouble for everyone. You're not a source of order. You're a predatory, destructive force.
And this is where you really get the scale of this judgment. This isn't just some battle or a military defeat. This is a cosmic event. God says he himself will catch this monster in his net, and its downfall will be so total, so world-shattering, that it will be like the sun, moon, and stars just go dark. It's going to be a public, terrifying display of divine power that no one can ignore.
The prophecy ends with this haunting roll call of the dead. All these nations, Assyria, Elam, Edom, they were once mighty. They caused terror in their day. And now they're all just lying together in the grave. And the ultimate humiliation for Pharaoh is that he and all his armies are about to join them. All that earthly glory reduced to nothing but shame and silence. Okay, so after all of that judgment on other nations, the camera suddenly swings around. The focus shifts dramatically back to God's own people, the exiles from Israel. And the theme completely changes to one of urgent, personal responsibility. God basically rehires Ezekiel for his job as a watchman. Just picture a guard on a city wall. His job isn't to fight the enemy. His job is to see the danger coming from a distance and to sound the alarm so that everyone else has time to prepare. Ezekiel's task is to deliver God's warning and to do it loud and clear.
The logic of accountability here is just crystal clear. Step 1, the watchman has to see the sword, the coming danger. Step 2, he absolutely has to blow the trumpet and warn everybody. And from that point on, the responsibility shifts. If people hear the warning, shrug it off, and then they die, well, that's on them. And this is the part that has to be terrifying for Ezekiel, if the watchman fails to sound the alarm, God holds him responsible. It's a powerful lesson in accountability for both the messenger and the listener.
Then it happens. The moment all those prophecies had been pointing to. A survivor arrives from Judah, and he brings the devastating news: the city is smitten. Jerusalem has fallen. Suddenly, all those warnings are no longer theoretical. The judgment is real. And this event proves that Ezekiel's message was true, and it opens the door for a brand new message, a message about what happens next.
And this, right here, is the heart of the Watchman's message. This is what it's all about. It reveals God's true motive. All those warnings, all the talk of judgment, it's not because God enjoys seeing people condemned. No, it's a desperate plea. The whole point of blowing that trumpet isn't just to announce doom. It's to call people to turn around, to repent, and to choose life.
So, with Jerusalem now a pile of rubble, the obvious question is, how did this happen? How did things get so bad? In chapter 34, God gives the diagnosis. He points the finger directly at Israel's corrupt, selfish leaders, he calls them false shepherds, and then he reveals his own radical solution.
I mean, you can't get a clearer contrast than this. On one hand, you have the false shepherds, the kings, the priests, who used the people for their own benefit. They fed themselves, not the flock. They didn't care for the weak or heal the sick or go looking for the ones who were lost. And in response, God says, fine, I, myself, will search for my sheep and seek them out. He promises to personally do everything the failed leaders refused to do.
Now this is a huge moment in the entire book. After laying out the problem of failed human leadership, God promises a future perfect leader. He'll be one shepherd, a new David. And that name David is incredibly significant. It points all the way back to Israel's greatest king and the ancient promise of a forever kingdom. This is one of the most powerful prophecies in the Old Testament of a future Messiah who will perfectly care for his people.
And under the leadership of this true shepherd, God will establish what he calls a covenant of peace. And this isn't just about no more war. This is a complete restoration of everything. Total security, prosperity, and wholeness. It's a vision of a world made right again, where God's people can finally live without fear, totally blessed and provided for, knowing they are safe with him. But before we can get to that full restoration, there's one last piece of business, one final judgment. The prophecy now turns to Israel's neighbor and longtime rival, Edom, also known as Mount Seir. And this isn't just about politics, it's about their malicious, hateful attitude toward God's people when they were down.
The reason for God's judgment against Edom is a direct response to their own actions. They had a perpetual hatred for Israel. And when Jerusalem fell, they celebrated. They rejoiced in the disaster and tried to profit from it. So God basically declares a principle of poetic justice. Since you were so happy to see them become a wasteland, I'm going to make you a wasteland.
So as we pull all this together, you can see these incredible themes woven through all 5 of these chapters. We see that pride always leads to a fall, that God's judgment on injustice is certain for every nation, that every single one of us is responsible for how we respond to God's warning. We see the absolute disaster of corrupt leadership, and then, rising from those ashes, we see the amazing promise of a true shepherd. And all of this leaves us with a final thought. These ancient prophecies talk about crumbling empires and self-serving leaders, which, let's be honest, feels pretty familiar. This journey from judgment to hope in Ezekiel's message really forces us to ask a timeless question. In our own world, filled with flawed leaders and failing powers, where do we look for a shepherd who truly cares, who truly protects, and who can truly restore?